Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans and Best Coast Pod fans. This is episode 6. We're already 6 weeks into the season. This is craziness. Very excited here, being joined by my friend Pat Moen. Pat, how we doing today, man?
Doing well, soaking up a little bit of sun here. Got to hit the ball around, played some tennis earlier, but episode 6, man, the season's going by too quick. We're gonna have to pump the brakes on this a little bit.
I know, man. I just kept looking down. I'm like, boy, we're getting up to the mid-season point here, and we're going to be releasing a cool mid-season thing here in the next week or so for you fans. So be looking out for that. We'll tease it a little bit more, but it will be kind of like our mid-season All-American for the Best Coast here. But we'll be releasing that a little here in a couple next week here or so. We're going to do the top 25 as we do every week. College Baseball Central does a collective poll in the top 25 this week. Met with some scrutiny, and that's fair, especially from us West Coast guys. We didn't like to see that some of our teams had not been included in there. So let's start with others receiving votes: UCSB, Oregon, and Cal. I had Oregon and UCSB in this week. I did not have Cal after the double loss there, but I do think Cal is a top 30 team. I have them right on the bubble there for me. Pat, where did you have those teams lying?
Yeah, I didn't submit one this week. I didn't get watch enough to really put a conclusive spin on things. But looking with where things shaped up, I'm with you. I would have had Oregon in. I would have had UCSB definitely in, probably high enough at that point for them to make the break into the collective top 25. I like Irvine in there. I definitely would have Irvine higher. I've had Irvine in my rankings now for I think 3 or 4 weeks. But Oregon State at 2 is right where I would have had them. So
yeah, I believe
overall, I think it's a good reflection.
Yeah, I believe I had Irvine at 16, so them at 22 is not surprising. They didn't have a perfect weekend. They grinded out some wins. They're good. They're still a very good team. Oregon State at 2 is where they should be, right? They should be anywhere from 2 to 4, and I'm fine with it. I understand that there's some movement there. Arkansas clearly the number 1 team in the country after how they played this weekend at home. SEC ball, we're going to see more of it. It's going to shake out. Oregon State losing the Sunday game, which we'll talk about more against Utah, kind of keeps them at number 2, keeps them in that spot. Not bad. Love to see the Beavs in most polls between 2 and 4. It's good for them, and I think that it really just says the West Coast ball is there. We just need to get some more of these teams ranked, and so far some of these teams have underplayed, underperformed, and we'll talk about those teams here in a minute. But let's just jump into Irvine, 15-3. Like I said, they lost a couple games this week. They lost their midweek game. They lost one over the weekend where they had an 8-run lead and they blew it in the ninth. Still a very good ball club. They get Cal Bakersfield this week. I feel good about their chances of sweeping at home against Cal Bakersfield.
Anything other than a sweep, I think this weekend against Bakersfield is not the ideal weekend for the Anteaters. Bakersfield did take one this past weekend, so they have a win in their conference column, but that's only their 4th collectively on the year. We all, as Beaver fans, saw them early in the season down in Surprise, but the pitching was pretty good for Irvine, which is kind of the opposite. Usually we've been harping on the quality of this Irvine offense. Like, I mean, last week they put up 70-plus runs, and then they go out and they put up a 1-0 win on Friday. So total kind of dichotomy of that team. 6-1 Saturday, and then, like you said, just kind of collapsed in late Sunday. Seemed to be the theme of the weekend for a few teams. But I think with Bakersfield kind of coming up next, I worry a little bit for this Bakersfield team this weekend. I think Irvine's going to jump right back, and their bats are going to be hot, and they're going to jump all over the Roadrunners.
Yeah, I think this is a good series for Irvine to get going because they do have they get UCSB the following weekend, so them getting going here against Cal Bakersfield, good for the offense. Pitching has been performing much better than anticipated. They're putting themselves in a position to host, especially if they can go out there and win some more of these weekend series in the Big West. So big things coming for UC Irvine. Long Beach State, not the greatest week for them. They had a tough opponent. UCSB really took care of business against them. We'll talk about UCSB next. Long Beach State 10-7-1 now. They get USC on the Tuesday night, and then they get Fullerton for a weekend series. Doesn't really get easier for Long Beach State. These are not easy games, and they got to go out and keep collecting wins if this team wants to put up noise and try to get tournament bound where they thought they were a couple weeks ago, heading that direction.
Yeah, the midweek's going to be interesting with USC. Just kind of it'll be a matchup of, I guess, 2 teams kind of looking to prove a little bit more coming off the weekend. USC looking to build coming off of their weekend. Fullerton, though, is going to be an interesting one. Fullerton dropped a series to UC San Diego, which I think they're kind of kicking themselves for. I think that's a series that Fullerton would have liked to have, and they're close to having it, splitting it. but Long Beach better be hungry coming out, dropping 3 games to start. They're in last place in the Big West, which is not where I think anybody expected them to be. We're only 1 weekend in, but they're going to want to turn things up a notch quick.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go out there and find some offense, which everybody's gonna struggle offensively against UCSB. That's just gonna happen when they're playing well and they're pitching well, and they got some really good relief performances for UCSB. Long Beach State's got to be a little bit better, more consistent with the sticks, and I know that I've said it from the start of the season. Wanted to see more consistency. They're lacking it right now, and I think that's what's hurting them.
Right.
UCSB 12-5. They're been on fire. They're getting a hot Cal Poly team. This Cal Poly team has been playing well, playing good ball. This is not any rollover weekend for them, and they're at Cal Poly, which is never an easy set to go up there and play. I think UCSB takes care of business, but I really like the way that they're pitching right now. They're playing defense really well. They got to go out there and they got to continue those things if they want to beat this very good Cal Poly team.
This is a show me weekend. UCSB's won 9 of their last 10, and that one loss was the Sunday game to Oregon. So this team is hot. They're rolling, coming off what they would classify, and most people classify as a rough start to their season, not how they wanted it to go. One of the most impressive things from this weekend, they only rolled out 6 arms. They pitched 2 guys a day all weekend long against a good Long Beach State team. You don't see that ever. Cal Poly is going to have a long weekend ahead of them if that is the case. But like you said, the Mustangs are playing good ball at the moment. It'll see if the Gauchos can come in and continue to roll.
Yeah, I do believe that this is a sweep for the Gauchos, and I think that they are playing some of their best ball of the season. I think that they keep rolling. And like you said, their last loss was to that Oregon team on Sunday, who is good. That's a very good Oregon team. And I'm excited to see the way that the Gauchos are playing. They feel like the team that I had ranked at 16 to start the season. They're working their way back to that ranking.
Finally starting to show it a little bit. Yeah, exactly. It's something they've got one of the highest RPIs on the West Coast. Their RPI 5 weeks in is sitting at 14. So this is a team right now that's looking to bring a regional. Not sure if they meet all the requirements on hosting or not, but this is a team right now that is a serious contender for postseason play.
Yeah, and their ballpark's gorgeous. It's a fun ballpark to play in. A lot of history there, so I'm excited. I hope that they get the opportunity, but they got to keep winning games, and this would be a good series to go out there and sweep and continue that trend going. San Diego, they played well over the weekend. They took care of business. Tough matchups. They go out there. They won those games. They're 10-8 now. They went and beat Michigan twice. Almost 3 times they lost on a walk-off home run from Michigan there. Really good weekend for San Diego. If you're a San Diego fan, you got to be happy. Let's get a Tuesday game at Fullerton and then versus St. Mary's at home. This is that turning point. We talked about it last week. They got to start collecting wins. They did the things during the week. They went out there and they beat Michigan. They won 3 games over the week. They got to go out and do that again here. 3 games over this weekend would be a really good feel for San Diego.
You got to think 3 is the number that they're looking for. Really impressive. I think they kind of weathered their storm. Their non-conference slate was really tricky, and they scheduled it, and they even missed a game against UCLA due to some weather. They've played Michigan 4 times now. They took 3 of them. They've got a couple Power 5 wins sprinkled in there as well. I like St. Mary's. I'm high on the Gales. I think they're looking good to start their season as well. They haven't played that same competition. Really, their only big series is that Florida game. But I think this is going to be one for both. I personally have St. Mary's coming out of this one with 2. But I would not be surprised if Toreros and guys like Jack Gurvich just stay in the groove that they're currently in. He had a monster day over the weekend. This is one that I'm excited to see play out, and I'm excited to watch a little bit more of the St. Mary's team as well.
I think I'm taking San Diego taking 2 because they're at home. They're at home. It means a lot to them right now to go out there and collect wins at home. St. Mary's is a good ball club. That's why we highlighted this one here. We're really excited to see who comes out on this one. I do believe San Diego gets 2 at home just because of the home field advantage there for this one. Santa Clara, 11-6 now. They've been quietly playing really good ball. They've been beating teams that are in front of them, doing what they're supposed to do. They got San Jose State for the midweek. Portland, 10-7, has Oregon State for the midweek. And then these teams meet over the weekend, and, it's at Santa Clara. These are 2 teams that are top 3 there for the WCC, and this right here is the Show Me Series. This is the wake up and be part of it and show that you're the number 1 team in the WCC.
If there was one series throughout the West Coast that I could be at this weekend, I think this would be it. I love both of these teams. Santa Clara brings the offense. Guys that we've talked about kind of tirelessly on the show with John Beering and Efrain Manzo. But Coleman Brigman's starting to turn things up a notch as well. Kind of had a weird weekend. They only played 2 against UNLV,
Yeah,
and they split them. And then they got shut out on Saturday night, which is a bit concerning, especially for a team that is kind of reliant on their offense a little bit. But the pitching has stepped up on Sunday, and it'll be interesting to see a matchup on those Friday and Saturday matchups with Nick Brink and Sam Sturr going for Portland. Brink was amazing again on Friday night. Sturr dinged up a little bit now, a couple weeks in a row, but he's a guy that can bounce back, and I believe he's got all the tools to do so this weekend. My eyes will be glued to this series all weekend long. I think this is going to be a good one to see who's going to really start the season ahead of everybody in the West Coast.
And this is power on power, like you just said there. Brink and Sturr, they're number 1 and number 2 in strikeouts. Their strikeouts per 9, their strikeouts overall. They are the number 1 and number 2 pitchers for strikeouts in the WCC right now. They light you up on Friday, Saturday. They come in, they're not going to shy away. They're coming right after you. I know I got to see Sturr pitch on Saturday against Maryland. It was awesome being there at Joe Etzel Field. As you guys can see, that is our background today in the photos here. And I know that you were there on Sunday, Pat, and it's just a wonderful ballpark. Just really excited to get to go there and have the opportunity to see these Portland Pilots in person. They didn't win either game we were at, so props to Maryland for taking care of business on the road in a tough road series. But I do think that Portland and Santa Clara is the most important series on the West Coast this whole weekend, and I've been screaming it all day to the rest of our CBC guys, telling them, watch this series. This is the series that's going to determine a lot here. I think Santa Clara probably takes it at home, but it's going to be a great series.
I do personally have Santa Clara probably taking this one 2 out of 3. I don't see a world in either of these teams sweeping the weekend on either side. But yeah, Joe Etzel over the weekend was great for my first live game of the season. Got my first sunburn of the season, which there will be plenty of, I'm sure of them. And I'm excited. This probably won't be out by Tuesday, but excited to be there Tuesday night for some Oregon State and UP action as well, which would be a beautiful setting out there on the bluff.
Yes, make sure if you guys do not follow Pat, go follow Pat. Go give him a hard time. Go say hi to him at the game here. He's going to be there, probably up in the booth a little bit, probably walking around the stadium a little bit. But if you see him out there and out and about, go give him a good time and, buy him a beer or something, but go say hi. All right, let's get into Pac-12 play. Man, there was just a lot to unpack. We get Washington State and Arizona State this week. Washington State lost 2 or 3 to UCLA. They looked pretty competitive, but not good enough on the road at UCLA. UCLA had to win those games, but taking one, not the worst thing on a road series. They get Seattle for their Tuesday, then they travel down to Arizona, or they get Arizona State at home. Arizona State took 2 of 3 from Arizona. Good for them. They lost their midweek game. They get Utah Valley State. They get 2, I believe, against Utah Valley State, and then they're traveling up to Pullman. They got 5 games this week. A bewildered Arizona State staff, other than 2 guys who really threw well, Thomas Burns and Connor Markle. They're going to get some opportunities this week to throw against Utah Valley and kind of get ready for this Washington State series. This is a big series for both of these teams. 10-8 Washington State, 9-8 or 9-10 Arizona State. How do you like this one, Pat?
This one, it's interesting. As much as I loved what we saw, kind of like the fight and how close they were able to keep that series down in LA this weekend with Washington State, you kind of hit on the head where you said UCLA was in must-win games, and especially when they got to that Sunday rubber match where it was a 1-1 and they couldn't start the season 1-5 in conference play. One thing I really loved about Washington State breaking that series down and kind of picking more positives out is their run support was 1 through 9. It wasn't just one guy bringing all the runs. That first game, I think they put up 9 on Friday, and they had guys kind of delivering RBIs from all over. Arizona State is a team also where you don't need to worry about where you're going to get your RBIs from. All of the guys on that lineup can hit. And it'll be interesting to see with the 2 midweek games at home against a Utah Valley team that's kind of taken on the chin a little bit from some of the Power 5 teams they've played. See if they can kind of correct everything and get arms loose and ready to go for the weekend. Jackson Kent versus Thomas Burns Friday night was spectacular. Lived up to all the hype. We'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about Arizona. But same thing, kind of on the same stroke as UCSB. Arizona State made it through Friday and Saturday, only using 2 guys a game. Sunday, completely different story on the other end, where they had kind of that stable of arms ready to go, and none of them were too efficient as they gave up a pretty big number. So it'll be interesting to see over the weekend what that pitching staff can do and if they can take any jumps, because we know the offense will be there for Arizona State.
We get another fun Friday night. We get Grant Taylor versus Thomas Burns again on a Friday. I'm pumped. I really do believe that Arizona State takes two in this one. I think that it's almost at this point in the season for Arizona State, if they want a chance just to compete for a Pac-12 title, they got to go up and win. These road series are important for them, and I think that this is really important for them to go out there and get that. I mean, they're sitting at 3-3 in Pac-12 play. They got to go out and beat teams like Washington State if they want to compete for a Pac-12 title. And then if they go get a couple wins against Utah Valley, be a good week for them to go 4-1, 5-0 would be even better for this team to be sitting there a little bit better. UCLA 1-2 over the weekend. They're 7-11 now. They get USC. They're not playing a midweek game. They're sitting at home. They're going to wait. They're going to get ready for this USC game. USC is 6-13. They won a couple over the weekend. Needed to get those wins. Beat Stanford at Stanford. We'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Long Beach State, they're at Long Beach State, or USC's at Long Beach State and then at UCLA. This is a tough sled for USC. They're 6-13 at this point in the season, and UCLA is 7-11. One of these teams has to step up and start being the team in LA, right?
It has to. Math tells you that, but more importantly, these guys, the mentality, it has to be that way. One of these two teams has to take the jump. If you told me before the season started that we'd see these two playing when both of them had losing records and by over a whole week's worth of play losing records, I would have said, no way. I expected this almost to be a ranked matchup when we were going to see it. But UCLA, I hit on it during we were talking about Washington State. Hugely important for them to finally win their first series of the Pac-12 season from a good Washington State team. Same thing, USC winning that series. I have it steals from Stanford just because we weren't really sure what we should be seeing from either of those teams last week. That's a building block for both of these teams. They need to go in the right step. I think USC's got a tougher weekend to put that building block up in the right spot and keep going forward. So personally, I think UCLA's talent is really starting to kind of rear its head a little bit, and they're starting to figure out this lineup and act a little bit more as a cohesive team. I give UCLA the edge 2 out of 3 in this one, but it wouldn't be shocked if USC can come out and pull a rabbit out of the hat and make anything happen this weekend.
I'm going to take USC because I feel like they're turning the corner, right? And Cade Naoki was great on Friday. He's the guy that he looked like the guy that we had all talked about being Pac-12 pitcher of the year. And he
Right.
showed up on Friday and he beat a very good Stanford team and Matt at home. He took care of business on the road. It was a very good pitching outing from Cade Naoki. I like USC to take 2. I think they're going to steal 2 from UCLA, and I think UCLA is left just wondering what has happened to their season, sitting there if they're at 8-13, just spiraling at this point in the season, just begging to figure out something. But I think USC goes and takes 2. I really like where they're heading, and I think that they're more on the hot seat of trying to go out and get wins right now because they're 19 games in their season. They only have 6 wins. They
Right.
need to go out and get those games. And LB State is not a fun game to play on Tuesday, so they're not getting any easier for these guys now that we've started Pac-12 play. Arizona, 8-10. We talked about their struggles this weekend. We talked about how they didn't play well at home against Arizona State. Jackson Kent, though, on Friday night was nails again. I mean, he was great. Not his fault that they lost that game. They get Grand Canyon, and then they're at Oregon. Oregon has nobody this midweek. They're waiting. They're playing Arizona. They get Arizona at home. To me, the way that these two teams are playing, this feels all Ducks at home. I watched them play Cal this week. I was there on Sunday for the Sunday game, and my goodness, this whole team can hit balls out of the ballpark. They seem to be playing really good defense. They get really good pitching. They struggled on Friday against Cal. Didn't stop that pitching. They came out on Saturday. They came out on Sunday, threw strikes, beat up the zone, really attacked, played good defense. I love what I'm seeing from the Oregon Ducks here, and I think that they're going to at least take 2, maybe even sweep Arizona at home.
I'm right there with you. I've got this one all Oregon, and I think it's going to be all weekend long. I think I've got Oregon getting a huge weekend sweep because you kind of hit on the head. I loved what they did after dropping the Friday night game. They didn't take a step back at all. They continued playing their game. They're going to throw you strikes. You're going to make you put the ball in play, and their offense is going to go out and put up numbers like they did, especially kind of pulling that one out on Sunday. Real nice to get that series under their belt. Arizona, on the other hand, had a real tough time breaking that Arizona State starting rotation. Thomas Burns Friday night, yes, but Connor Markle went out on Saturday and threw an absolute gem the Sun Devils and really stymie that Arizona offense. Breakthrough on Sunday, yes, but if you're not going to be able to kind of take that on the chin Friday and Saturday and not put any offensive numbers up, because you can't expect the pitching to keep teams down, especially like this Oregon team in a weekend. That's kind of where I lean more so that Oregon's going to take this one pretty handily.
If Arizona was on the road last weekend against Arizona State, I don't think they would have won Sunday. I think being at home,
Right.
gave them a little bit of that comfort. They were able to play at home and be like, okay, we got to find one. We got to steal one somehow, win one at home. I think if they were on the road, that might have been a sweep, and that might have been it for Arizona's season. But they're going to go up to Oregon. They really have to play better ball if they expect to do anything, especially the way Oregon's playing at home right now. This is a tough Duck team, and they get all that break, and they get to rest their guys and get all set up for this weekend. Feels like a perfect storm for Oregon to go out there and become 16-6 and just really pushing themselves to be that number 1 or number 2 team in the Pac-12. Stanford, 9-9, not a good week. Stanford still struggles. Stanford still can't find answers offensively. They're inconsistent pitching. Lim was great. He was great on Saturday. That's it. Like that was the highlight of the whole weekend was Lim on Saturday. And now you're gonna they're gonna get Creighton at home. Creighton's a good ball club. I don't think they're a great ball club, but they're a good ball club. Stanford needs to find a way to sweep this one to really find themselves again, and they got to find something offensively.
Just when I thought I had turned on Stanford and the Stanford team was putting it all together, they go out and that's their weekend performance against a USC team that was struggling just as much as they were. You hit it on the head. Christian Lim, great weekend for him. A little more consistency there. And Matt Scott is really kind of the catalyst there. If they can go out and get a decent Friday start from him, they can win any Friday night game. It's just we're not seeing it. Like he had the great start against UW, tails off this weekend here. Just more consistency from the pitching staff is needed. And I think Creighton gives them a good opportunity to do that. Like you said, good, nothing spectacular. They did receive a low vote in our CBC poll this week. But yeah, I've got this one being all Stanford. I think they might drop the Sunday game. I'm not sure. I don't know if after getting all my hopes up and putting all my eggs in the Stanford basket last week for them to go out and drop them and break them all like that, I don't know if I can do it again. So I'm going to give Stanford the series, but I don't know if they can take all 3 from the Blue Jays.
Stanford's they got to. They've really got, this has got to be one of those season series where you look back and you go, oh, that's where we turn. This is kind of
Right.
where we got right. This is where we got going before Pac-12 play. You know, they've already played 2 series. They're not looking great. This team is not playing spectacular. 3-3 in Pac play. Got to go out and go get those wins. So I think that this is a big one there for them. Cal 12-5. They did lose the weekend to Oregon, but they still played pretty good ball. It's not like it's a wash of a weekend on the road at Oregon. That's not a lot of teams are going to win series up there. Utah 12-6. They did steal the Sunday game from Oregon State. Oregon State had been struggling with that Utah team. Utah came back and won the Sunday game after being down 9-0. Utah gets Northern Colorado. I think they get 2 against Northern Colorado possibly. And then Cal gets San Francisco and then at home against Utah. I want to say this is all Cal, and Cal should take care of business, but this Utah team is scrappy. They play small ball. They do the right things. They play defense. They stay in ball games. They don't let you get too far over your skis there. And they're on the road here. I do think Cal wins the series, but I don't think it's a sweep.
Yeah, this one's tough for me to predict here. I think Cal last weekend obviously just ran into a kind of a, I don't want to say juggernaut, but they ran into a really good team in Oregon. I think they got the results that were about, obviously they would love the series, but I think winning 1, losing 2 is right kind of where they fall in like that Pac-12 hierarchy. Oregon's just a better ball club. Can you say the same about Utah? I'm not too sure. I like Cal taking this one, but Utah is more than capable. Utah coming back from a 9-0 deficit. I know it probably looks hard on the eyes and it's not good to look at. You don't want to go look at that box score. But that's exactly what this team's built to do. Is they're dinking and dunking. They're stealing bases. They're finding opportunities. One thing I thought that they did really well was they generated their own opportunities. They didn't rely on getting walked from the Oregon State pitching staff. Oregon State threw the ball relatively well. They limited the base on balls compared to past weeks. I know on Sunday the hit by pitches got a little bit away from them. I think 4 guys were able to reach via the hit by pitch. But Utah can fight and they can scrap and they can kind of just drag games out and pull them out in the end. So Utah's built for it, but I think Cal takes this one just with their hot bats. So Lomovida's continuing to swing it. Green Jr. getting hotter. I think we still haven't seen his full potential, and I think we start to see it as we get further into conference play.
Yeah, and Peyton Schultz had an off weekend also. I think that he's going to step back into that role that he had been doing. Ronnie Green Jr. struck out 8 straight times to start off the Oregon series and then came alive on Sunday and gave him a little bit of life, but not enough to come back in that series there against Oregon. I think Cal takes this at home. I do. I think if the difference is they're at home, Utah's got to travel, and I think Cal really wants to go out there and win this one. So I think Cal takes care of business at home. I like Cal to go 3-1 this weekend, maybe sweep, maybe go 4-0. But this is a good Utah team, so nothing against Utah at all. I think that this is just a better Cal team at the moment, and we're going to find out a lot more about this Cal team and this Utah team. Both teams sitting at 12 wins already. Right now, they're both behind Oregon as far as Pac-12 standings, but right there. Washington is 6-8-1. They did take care of 2 games against Texas, which I know both of us had been yelling about them going down there and they had to start winning games. They had to start finding wins. They did it against a really good Texas team at the Dish. Not easy to go win games down there. They did all the right things. Jeter Ibarra, he did everything we asked him to. Jeter Ibarra did everything. That whole team stepped up. They all did the things that they were supposed to do. They lost the Sunday game because of time constraints, 3-2, which seemed or 4-3, which seemed kind of, okay, that sucks because we would have loved to see that one play out. But good for Washington. They're traveling to Oregon State. Oregon State's coming back after the Utah series on the road. They get Portland at Portland. Pat will be there tomorrow. And then they get Washington at home. Oregon State's got to just put pressure on this Washington teams, but Washington, if they want to step back into this conference, has to do it now. This is it. It doesn't get easier. This is the hardest series probably that you're looking at, a road series at Oregon State, but they need to go out there and win some games or figure out a way to win a game.
Yeah, Washington, I mean, I just got written down. Where did this come from? I mean, this offense has been awful, and that might be underselling what this offensive numbers have been for the Huskies. And they go down there and they put up 9 in the first game and then 5 in the second, which is enough to win with how their pitching staff handled things. But you said it, Jeter Ibarra was just the catalyst. I think they've been waiting and waiting for one guy to just deliver with runners on base, string hits together, and he was the guy in the 3-hole for him this weekend that was able to kind of bridge maybe a leadoff single, leadoff hit, and bring them around to score. Another thing that really stood out to me for the Huskies pitching staff is they limited big innings, which college baseball is a huge game when it comes to momentum. And I think that they gave up only 10 runs in the weekend, which is great for a pitching staff, even if you only play 26 innings instead of 27. But only 2 of those were crooked numbers, and those were 2 runs and 3 runs. So kind of a really good job of limiting damage for the Huskies. I don't think they can do that this weekend, though. I think this Oregon State team is coming in, and all week, I think the kind of mantra that they hear from Canham and the rest of the coaches is just going to be finish the job. And I think that's what they do this week. And I think Oregon State takes all 3 in their conference home opener. And I think they win 2 of them at least pretty handily. I'm hoping to see the return of Aiden May. It sounds like he's getting closer and closer. Would love to have him back for the series, just because that helps to prevent things that we saw on Sunday. If you can open up Jaron Hunter to not throwing on Friday and you can use him in long relief on a Sunday, that's huge for this pitching staff. I guess Sunday, no one ever wants to give up 9 runs unanswered or 10 runs unanswered to blow a lead of that size. But with that park and the way Utah's team's built, is things like that will eventually happen. It's a long season in college baseball. And I thought they were much further into the game. So I'm getting all these notifications like, oh, Bazana's 3 for 3 with 5 RBIs. And I'm like, oh, they must be, 9-0. They must be in the 6th inning, 7th inning. No, it was the 3rd. So there's a lot of ball game left. And unfortunately, that got kind of exposed on their end. But I think Canham and the coaching staff is going to really work into these guys. It's not like things like that happen the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it was surprising because it was, the same problems we've been talking about. So I guess it wasn't as surprising as we'd been talking about. The walks, the hit batters, not beating up the zone, and then when they had to throw strikes, they threw them right down the middle, and those Utah guys knew that they were going to throw strikes. Got to be a little bit better, but I do have a lot of faith in this Oregon State team. Trent Caraway is out. It looks like he might be out, the talented freshman, for about a month or so. They're not sure how long it's going to take him. He had a hand injury, and he will be out. But we got guys to step up. So it looks like Hainline might slide over to third. It might be Mason Guerra over at third. Guys are going to step up in that position. If Hainline switches to third, then that'll put Trotsky at shortstop. If it's Guerra at third, then that puts Craig at first, and then a different DH. it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that hole in the lineup. But it's not unheard of. They did it the weekend before when he was sick. So I am excited for this Oregon State team. I think that they are rolling moving forward. And I think that if you're Washington, you kind of were hoping that they were going to finish that sweep off of Utah and maybe take the gas off. And they're coming full bore for you now, Washington. It's going to be a weekend series at home. They know that they want to win this thing. If they want to win the Pac-12, they need to go out there and start some of these sweeps, especially at home. So I think that it's a lot on Utah's shoulders. All right, buddy. Winning team of the week. I think I know where you're going after hearing you talk about this team, but where are you going?
I've been putting this team in the doghouse now a couple times, just in these short 6 weeks. So I got to give them some credit, man. And I know I just predicted that they get swept, but I'm going to go with the Washington Huskies here. I think that for them to just come off some really disappointing series to start the season, and they go down and then their toughest series of the weekend, they rose to the top and they won the series. Would have loved to see that ninth inning. I'm also a little concerned if they're having to cancel games or end games in the eighth when they're playing in Texas. What are they going to do when they're playing in New Jersey? Are we going to get those in or some earlier start times there? But I think for the Huskies, it's just a really promising weekend. That offense has been anemic. And to show a little bit of life and to put up 9 runs, 5 runs, and just put wins in the win column, honestly, it can be huge for a team. Unfortunately for them, they do kind of run into a tough scheduling bit here with having to come up to Corvallis and play Oregon State, or go down to Corvallis, I should say, and play Oregon State. But I think promising, and they can build on it. They got to know that they're a little overmatched this weekend, to not maybe let the results of this weekend get to them too much, because I think they can build on some success against a big team like Texas.
Yeah, I think that this is, this weekend is tough. But if they can go out and they can find a way to win one at Oregon State, if they can somehow win the series at Oregon State, they've put themselves back in the position to be competitive for the Pac-12. And I think that that's their whole goal this week down at Texas, was come together as one, find a way to score runs. They did that. They really hit cohesively as a team, and it was good to see this Washington State, or this Washington club, get after it a little bit. And that was what they did. They beat some good pitching down there for Texas. I'm going UCSB. I think you killed it when you said 6 pitchers only threw against this Long Beach State team. And we're talking about a very good Long Beach State team. UCSB's pitching and defense is what won them those ball games. Yeah, they scored a little bit on Friday. They had to come back. Agar gave up enough to where it was tied up 5-5, and then they shut it down. I was very impressed by the way that they've been winning these ball games, and I think that it just continues. I think that this team is loaded up and they're ready to go. And I think that UCSB is my team of the weekend with the 3-game sweep there. And it was my series pick of the week to say that was going to be the best series, and it ended up being the sweep. So good for you as UCSB. The Gauchos go over there. Underperforming team of the week. Not a lot this week in the Pac-12. A lot of teams played a lot better. Usually we've been having a hard time picking one team that didn't perform. But who's your underperforming team this week?
Yeah, that was kind of the trickiest part for me, was finding a team that, obviously teams lost series, but they weren't upsets to me. They were a series where I was like, yeah, you just kind of got overmatched. Or even for Long Beach State, you went up, and UCSB just kind of did what we thought they could all along. So I ended up going with Stanford being my underperforming team of the week, just because the momentum that they needed to ride after winning their first conference series had to come out and then just drop 2 out of 3 to a struggling USC team. It's tough to pick, but I lean Stanford just because, like I said, I was kind of so high on them after coming out of that Washington series and thinking they're really starting to put things back together, just for them to fall a little flat.
Yeah, I'm going with another team that lost 2 at home also in the Pac, and that's Arizona. You can't lose games at home like that, especially against teams that are equal. And if you value yourself equal to this Arizona State ball club and you go out there and you drop 2 at home in the final Pac-12 series against your in-state rival, not a good look if you're Arizona. And they really were not necessarily even in either one of those games on Friday, Saturday competitively. They were in it on Friday a little bit, but Thomas Burns shut that offense down, and then Connor Marco shut down that offense. And the offense just could not hit. There was too much swing and miss, especially being at home. I think if they were, like I said, if they were on the road, they probably would have been swept. But at home, at least they got that win. But my underperforming team has got to be Arizona, especially trying to battle up and take some wins there, and they just did not do it. Now they're sitting at 3-3 in Pac and 99 overall. Not a great look for Arizona. Props to a player or coach.
I juggled a couple here, seeing some names, some big numbers put up this weekend up and down the West Coast. But this performance jumped out to me, and especially it was kind of crucial for them to win this series. So I got to go with Nick Pinto, the big lefty for the Anteaters at UC Irvine. Just a tremendous start. 8 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and he did earn a little bit of an edge on some others because he got a no decision. You went out, you threw 8 innings. I think he had 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, and you earned the no decision. As a Mariners fan that has seen Felix get many of those performances, I feel like I had to give a little love to Nick Pinto with the Anteaters. A great performance down there, but I really like where this Anteaters team is headed.
Yeah, and if he's going to throw like that on Fridays, this team is really tough, and especially come postseason time, that team's going to be really tough. I was toying around with a couple, so I got to see Jacob Walsh hit a couple bombs, Oppo, down there at PK Park, and man, that guy he's all business, and he's staying on balls when he's hitting it opposite field. You'd know that he's staying on the baseball and he's doing the swing he's supposed to be doing. He's not pulling off. He's hitting it really hard. But I'm going with another guy who stepped up and led for his team, a team that I did not think could win this weekend. That's Washington's Jeter Ibarra. 7 for 11, 5 RBIs. He went 5 for 5 on the Friday night, had 3 doubles in that game, and just really put his team on his back and said, I got you. Let's go. You're going to put me in the 3 hole. I got you. We're going to start doing this thing the right way. We're going to go out there and we're going to win games. And going down there and beating Texas, like I said, beating Texas at the dish is no easy task. I don't care what Texas team it is, but especially a top 25 Texas team that just beat Texas Tech the week before. That's tough to go down there. And that Texas team was hungry. They wanted to beat that Washington team, and Washington said, we're taking care of business. And a lot of that was Jeter Ibarra. So I did see that he just actually won Pac-12 Player of the Week. So
Yeah.
Good for Jeter Ibarra. Good to see that one there. But yeah, that was my player. When I was looking at it this morning, I told Pat, I said, I'm stuck between these two, but I think I'm going Ibarra because of what he did and what it meant for Washington. Final thoughts on the weekend. I know that you're going to get us to see Portland again on Tuesday against Oregon State. Pretty excited about that one. But any other thoughts going on?
I had 2 games in person in 3 days. Does it get much better than that? I mean, getting back to the park, and watching a game in person, it really solidifies that we're in the swing of things and baseball's back, even up here in the Pacific Northwest. We've thawed out, and we're playing ball in our home parks again. So excited to see some big matchups. Like I said, the Portland and the Santa Clara one has got all my eyes this weekend. But looking around the Pac-12 and around the Big West and the West Coast, there's just so many opportunities to learn a little bit more about these teams that it happens once you think you've got a team figured out, they go and they totally turn it on their head. So really interesting weekend coming up. Now all these guys are getting into conference play, and the rubber's really hitting the road for all these guys. So just excited to see it all unfold.
Yeah, we're into it now, and I just want to give a special shout out. UP, thanks for having both of us there this weekend. Gorgeous ballpark. Can't wait to go get another game at Joe Etzel Field. U of O, thanks for having me again on Sunday. Man, you guys just really take care of your staff, and your guys are all happy to be around there. Cal and Maryland, thanks for also talking to us and giving us some microphone shots and giving us a little bit of talk there. We love it, man. Just getting after it. So much thanks for that. We appreciate covering the game and really are very appreciative of what you guys, the fans and staff there in all these places, allow us to do. So thank you for that. College Baseball Central's got you covered. So if you guys haven't checked us out yet on YouTube, go like, subscribe, go check out all the other pods. We know we're the Best Coast pod. We have it on there for a reason. We're the best. That's fine. But we have a great ACC pod. We're getting an SEC pod started up here. We have a Texas podcast. And now we also do the weekend rotation, which we've been doing. This is our 3rd year of it. Saturday mornings, 1,000 people watch us every morning. You can go and watch it. Go watch the replay. It covers you nationally for everything we do college baseball, everything that happened on Friday and what's going to happen the rest of the weekend. So once again, for the Best Coast Pod, episode 6, we're halfway through the season here. We're getting into it, Pat. Thanks again for joining us.
Don't say that.
Hey, man, it's just closer to all of us being in Omaha. Just closer to all of us being in Omaha.
There it is, the road to Omaha.
So we'll be dropping some more stuff for you guys this week. Keep an eye out. We'll be tweeting it out from the main account, from our own personal accounts. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.